if anything, but it's been all over the place.
Game 3 is where we're going to cut in here between Burdette and Worley. So again, whoever does win this match, we'll see what happens in the next round. Again, we don't think the people are going to be able to draw in, unfortunately, just because, again, 404 players here in Knoxville. 410 is the cutoff. So we'll see what ends up happening. But we're going to watch Game 3 here as both players look like they're finishing sideboarding. Do you think this favors one person or the other?
Depends who's on the play. Generally, in this matchup, I think the person on the play is slightly favored. Okay. Assuming that Kendall has a normal sideboard, if he has a really powerful sideboard for the matchup, that can get a lot better, but it doesn't really appear that that is the case.
In the sideboard here for Kendall, 3 Duress, 2 Golgari Charms, 2 Doom Blades, a Devour Flesh, 2 Farika's Cure, a Lifebane Zombie, an Underworld Connections, 2 Erebos God of the Dead, Nebraska. Love Duress. Gotta love Doom Blade, especially if you see the first 2 games. You have to assume that he saw a lot of creatures here, so Doom Blade's probably pretty good, and of course, Farika's Cure is a delight.
Farika's Cure is very good. Not having access to the full playset of Duresses is a bit of a hit here. I'm surprised to see that because Duress seems so good in a variety of matchups. But 2 copies of Farika's Cure is a real tool in the matchup. The problem is that sometimes the red-white burn deck gets draws that don't involve creatures whatsoever. It's just burning you out from 20. And Farika's Cure can get straight in your hand in some of those games. But if Matthew produces a threat that's killable with Farika's Cure, it's very good for Kendall, of course.
Might be time to just fire away in your own creature. How about that? Maybe that's what it's time to do.
It's
not pretty.
It's a little rough. That's a little rough.
The creature suite here for Burdette. He's got 4 Pack Rats, 4 Desecration Demons, 4 Grey Merchants, and 3 Lifebane Zombies, and 3 Nightveil Specters. So a little bit heavier than some other builds.
Rare to see a build with this many creatures. Sometimes you see a Nightveil Lifebane split, but it's rare that it's more than 4 total copies of these cards in someone's main deck.
Yeah.
Kendall going all the way up to 6.
So game 3 going to be underway here in just a moment. We'll see who's on the play. Obviously, the first person to play their land will give that away. I believe it is Matthew Worley here, however. And now Tyler Wynn has moved on to 8-0. He may have gotten paired down this round, wasn't able to double draw in, as here's a Duress from Burdette, so obviously he is on the play. We got 2 lands there in Temple and a Mountain, along with 2 copies of Chain to the Rocks, a Skullcrack, a Chandra's Phoenix, and a Warrior's Helix.
I believe that is Harnessed by Force.
Was that Harnessed by Force? Excuse me.
I think so.
That's the new Threaten?
Yes.
With Strive.
So this is a curious card.
He wants a Desecration Demon. That's what he wants.
I've had mixed success with Active Treason against mono black decks. In general, I found it to be pretty poor. Because the game can get to a spot where they just leave up a Mutable, and so you can't take Desecration Demon. And in the post-board games, people often have so much discard that they're able to sniff this out. So they can either take your Active Treason if it's going to be good, or see that you have it and play around it the entire game. That said, it still has moments of being very powerful, but on the balance, I've had negative success with it against mono black Devotion.
Yeah, I don't care if that card's good or not. The artwork is awesome.
It is sweet.
Give me that bull.
Or at least let me try. At least for a little bit, you know?
There are other bulls in the background, too, to be taken.
Right.
Again, just for a little bit. A real tough night there. There goes a Chain to the Rocks from the Duress.
Kendall must have a really creature-heavy draw if he wants to take Chain to the Rocks out of his hand. It has to be a lot of small creatures, too. He wouldn't want to be leaning on one big threat, seeing that there's a Harnessed by Force in hand.
See, Burdette's going to write down the cards. Again, Tyler Wynn, another red-white Burn player here, sitting at 8-0 right now. So if you're a Burn fan, we know who you're rooting for.
It's been a good weekend so far for these decks.
Absolutely.
I mean, we've seen so many of them on camera.
Another Phoenix drawn here, Temple of Triumph. A little scry action, going to leave that on top of Worley before passing the turn back over to Burdette, who will take a draw. It's a Swamp and passing of the turn. Worley going to draw a card, play a Mountain, pass the turn back over to Burdette.
Looks like he left the land on top of the scry to ensure that he can cast Warleader's Helix on time.
A copy of Overgrown Tomb will come into play on tap for Kendall. He's going to go down to 18 before deploying a Nightveil Specter, which will be a brick road there for the Chandra's Phoenix.
Yeah, part of the reason I'm not a huge fan of Phoenix in this matchup, even though it seems like it would be good in theory. You know, they're playing a lot of removal. You can get it back over time. It just gets bricked by a lot of their flyers, most notably Nightveil Specter.
It's time to deploy a Phoenix and just simply pass the turn back. No good attacks to be had here for Worley. So Burdette paying the 2 life, certainly working out there. Picks up a copy of Thoughtseize. Going to start by attacking here for 2 in the air. Worley's going to go down to 18. Tie game here as a trigger from the Nightveil Specter. Will reveal an Eidolon of the Great Revel.
Pretty lucky here for Matthew that was the reveal. not a card that Kendall was close to being able to cast on his own, and not a great draw step for Matthew as well.
This is a Thought Seize. That's going to reveal a hand of I want to say Active Treason. Such a bad habit. Harness by Force, a Mountain, a Enchantress Phoenix, a Warleader's Helix, and a Chain to the Rocks. Decisions here for Burdette.
Taking Chain to the Rocks here makes some amount of sense. Keep this Night Veil Spectre going.
Yeah, it feels like that's kind of his plan right now, and there that does go. Right now, I believe that Burdette does have a copy of Bile Blight in his hand. You can see a Freakus Cure as well as a Desecration Demon as well. So, really nice hand. There's another copy of Harness by Force. There's a Mountain. And we'll see if Worley actually does play the Phoenix, or he's just going to attack with the first one. And that's a Freakus Cure, so that's a backbreaker too.
Kendall's had a really good draw this game. I mean, multiple discard spells into Night Veil Spectre. Now with a Freakus Cure.
Just going to pass the turn back. Does Worley. Burdette up to 18 life at this point.
Now, there is a risk here. I mean, the problem with Night Veil Spectre is if it's able to find red mana, Matthew's going to take care of it, which I guess is fine as well. You start finding a lot of removal spells off the top of the red-white burn deck with your Night Veils.
That's a very real thing. So Warleader's Helix is going to gain Worley some life here. I think Burdette does have a Desecration Unit play. He does. And this is where things start to get real hairy here, as Worley's going to untap and take a draw. We know he has 2 copies of Harness by Force, but yeah, it's 3 mana, deals 6. I'm not saying that's bad or anything, but you still have to deal with the Desecration Demon that's on the other side of the table.
And keep in mind that the Black Devotion deck is fully capable of racing from this spot.
Yes.
I mean, it's 4-turn clock, and with Grey Merchants or additional threats, it's, Kendall can be the aggressor just as easily as Matthew can be.
So Burdette's going to go down to 12. And he says, Desecration Demon trigger, how about you? How do you like it? You got an 18. Burdette just going to pass the turn back with 4 mana available here. Worley draws his card for the turn. Looks like it may have been a young Pyromancer. Looks like it may be time to Harness by Force yet again. Give me Desecration Demon one more time.
I like casting Harness by Force here because there's no guarantee that you get to cast this spell for the rest of the game. The rest of the stuff in Matthew's hand, he can redeploy Chandra's Phoenix next turn, or maybe cast his young Pyromancer and try to start doing stuff with that. But if Kendall plays another creature, this Harness gets shut off essentially for the remainder of the game. And so you got to cash it in while the getting's good.
See, we're going to take a look at a couple of cards over there. A Golgari Charm and a Bile Blight. Might actually want to use one of those here.
Would not surprise me if he used the Bile Blight here.
So slow it down a little bit.
Taking 6 is a lot here. I mean, it puts you into double Lightning Strike range. 9 is pretty important because the burn deck can really only deal damage at maximum in multiples of 4. So the difference between 8 and 9 is pretty big.
Grey Merchant of Asphodel, the draw here for Burdette. He's going to attack for 6, going to put Worley down to 12. Nice increments of 6 here. Pretty convenient for Burdette. Sitting at 9 life on his side of things. Worley looks like he picked up another copy of Searing Blood. Wow. Going to play a young Pyromancer before passing the turn back. A little surprised not to see just the double Searing Blood play that turn.
Well, it doesn't kill the demon.
Oh, right, deals 2.
Yeah,
sorry.
Yeah.
Thing is Searing Blades.
Right.
Looks like young Pyromancer's on the job here to be able to slow down the Desecration Demon. There's a Golgari Charm.
It's a great play from Kendall. Even if Matthew has spells in response here, they all get swept away by the charm.
And just has to pass the turn back. This isn't the first time, my friend, we have seen Desecration Demon run all over a red deck.
It's tough to answer this thing. You can race, you can have Chain of the Rocks, but Matthew, without the tools to race, and all of his Chain of the Rocks have been taken away.
Yeah, and that's going to do it. A Grey Merchant of Asphodel, a drain of 4. Worley knows that he can't come back with Burdette up to 13. And Black-Green Devotion does it again. Moving on to 7-1, dispatching Red-White Burn. I know a lot of people think that Burn is good against Devotion, and we're not saying it's bad. It's just not as good, I think, as people think.
Yeah, and Worley's draw was kind of disconnected in a lot of ways. He had Chandra's Phoenix and young Pyromancer alongside his Active Treason effects. It was hard for him to cobble together any sort of consistent game plan, and not a lot of burn to be found either. So the duresses and thought seizes were able to pick apart Matthew's plan and leave him with tools that weren't equipped to fight what Kendall was up to.
I think the tough thing here, too, is that if